Hi guys, and welcome to another video here on the European Gaming League channel, and we're going to delve straight into this one. I've got my good friend Lando coming over. We don't seem to speak with anybody else, Lando. I think we're just talking in our own little Call of Duty bubble. But but today we're talking about Splyce in their recent announcement of their new roster. Of course, it is Jerd, Accuracy, Aqua, Temp, and Looney coming in as that final five. It was rumored for a while that Accuracy was going to come into this team with Jerd, who have obviously said he wanted to pick up 4 American players. It seemed to work out that they've got themselves a decent roster here, Lando.
Yeah, like originally the rumors that I was hearing on this team was that a lot of the guys from LG could be making their way over to Splyce. That was like a very strong rumor for a long time.
Yeah.
Obviously that doesn't happen, but I got to say, like, on paper initially, I think if certain things were to go well, this roster could actually surprise a lot of people. So I know we'll obviously be talking about that, as time goes on. But I'm excited to see this team go to work. I think this team has some real solid potential. Yeah,
and I think one of the other teams that was mentioned that Splyce could be picking up, as far as I'm aware, they really did try and pick up that now new Envy team. Plus Jerd obviously going in there, but Envy beat them to it. And as far as I was aware, it came down to contracted money, that sort of thing, and that's why Envious have managed to get a hold of them. But Envious are a big powerhouse organization. You would expect them to have the funding. They've really thrown it down there to get the world champions, meaning Splyce couldn't pick them up. But as said, they end up with this team. So another international team here. This is one of the, I think, is it the second one where we're having a team mix. Of course, we've seen Reciprocity announced the other day, but Jerd coming in here with 4 American players. From your outlook, what do you think of this roster in terms of the lineup? And I mean, one of the questions for me in this one, do you believe that, I think on paper from World War II, there's a few players on this roster who have championships, obviously Accuracy and Looney being the only 2 guys in there. But do you think those 2 guys are going to bring over what they had in World War II into Black Ops 4?
Now, I would say as far as Looney, it's going to be a lot easier of a transition just because, and this is early speculation, this is me just, throwing out what I think will happen in Black Ops 4. We don't even know what's going to happen in Black Ops 4, what the roles could even be. I'd imagine for Looney, it's going to be a lot easier to be the IGL in certain situations. Now, when I say the term of being easier to be an IGL, it means that he can kind of play more along the lines of communication, play more as far as a captain role is considered. He can kind of rely on the IGL rather than in terms of gameplay. I will say, though, it doesn't make the IGL easier because now you have the extra player. You have a 4-man team to worry about rather than the previous 3. So I think for Looney, it's going to be a little bit easier. I think for the IGLs, they can kind of play a little bit more passive to a point, which is going to progress itself in the KDs. You're probably going to see a lot of IGLs. I would imagine be around 0.8, 0.9 would probably be impressive for that, depending, of course. And with a lot of these God Squad rosters, it's going to be hard to find kills anyway. So I think for Looney, it's going to be a lot easier for transition. For Accuracy, I just don't know how quick the game is going to play this year. There's been a lot of questions as far as, can Accuracy play a fast AR role? Can he be used to the speed that a title like this is going to present? And after a title like World War II, granted, Accuracy had a crazy come up from years past into obviously the boots on the ground title that we had this past season. So I think the potential is without question there, and I think the additive of Aqua to the roster, being another AR player, the way that Aqua plays is much faster. Depending on how the roles work, I think it could actually be a little bit of an easier transition for Accuracy as well. Depending on what other ARs they would have got, I think Aqua makes a pretty good fit. So I think these guys are going to have a decent transition over. I would say based off role specifically.
Yeah, I think while you touched on Aqua, we can talk about him in Temp because, yes, okay, Jerd, we know is a fantastic player. Didn't really have the team last year. That team didn't work out in Splyce. We know Accuracy and Looney had very good years respectively between them as well last year. Temp and Aqua on the opposite end of the scale didn't really have a good time last year. What do you think of these 2 being in this team?
I actually I like the idea of it, on paper at the very least. I think for Echo Fox last season, of course, it was Temp, Aqua, Facento, and Saints toward the latter part. I feel like the major problem with this roster was really roles. Like throughout a lot of their run throughout World War II, I remember hearing quite a bit from this team saying, oh, yeah, Facento, started off as, a support SMG, and then he later transitioned to the main AR. And I was like, wait, how does that even work? Like Temp started off as an SMG and then made his way up to a flex. And then I started seeing him play more of an SMG role. And it was like, okay, what's going on with this team? And it seemed to me that this roster was kind of going off comfortability, what felt right for them, because they would have certain stints throughout World War II where they would just dominate teams in hardpoint, and then they would kind of slow down, and their game types constantly meshed around, and they never really saw consistency. And that's what I think could be good for seeing these two come over in Temp and Aqua, is that they can kind of play their role now. They don't have to worry about changing anything. They have guys who are solidified in their positions. We talked about Looney. He knows what he's supposed to do. Jerd, guaranteed sub. Aggro, going to be pretty much faster than anyone else outside of a few guys. And then, like I said, you have Accuracy, who is a guaranteed AR player, knows what he likes to do, going to play pretty slow. So I think it's going to be a pretty nice fit for them. My biggest issue, and I'm sure we'll talk about this, is going to be chemistry, how all these guys are going to mesh, and how the communication is going to go.
Okay, so Lando, one of my questions after what you said about the roles, obviously, do you think that Temp can keep up with Jerd? Because we know how fast he can be. I know you've mentioned it. Do you think Temp can keep up? Because that's going to be one of the big question marks around this roster, and it's always been a big question mark around players playing with Jerd, that they can't match his pace, meaning his role isn't as effective.
Yeah, I think for Temp, is the potential there? Yes, because he does come from a roster on Echo Fox where he was playing, well, at times, support with Saints, which Saints was kind of considered the aggro player for a majority. Temp also knows what it's like to be an aggro sub from time to time. So I think, like I said, this team, to me, as far as Echo Fox is considered, can kind of put a few pieces around. I think what would work best, especially with a guy like Jerd, is you want to play around him, you want to play to his strength. So, yeah, I definitely agree. Temp needs to kind of speed up. Is he going to be ready for that? I don't know, but I think there is potential. And like I said, it's going to be weird, right? Because they're not used to playing with a guy as fast as Jerd. There aren't many guys who can run the 100-meter sprint like Jerd can. So it'll be interesting to see, and that's one of the major questions to be asking for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so Lando, when we're talking regarding this team, we've seen how it's formed together. Is there any other free agents out there you might have wanted to have given a chance here? Because for me, there's still a few really, really good free agents out there that, for me, on paper, could have been better than some players in this team.
Yeah, so, I mean, regarding a few of the free agents out there, we can kind of throw out a few just because they're rumored to be in other lineups. So I'm assuming whenever Splyce was venturing out, they probably took those things into consideration. But as far as ARs are going, or at least guys who could pick up an AR, you have Classic, who, was kind of a flex throughout a lot of the year. He could also be a top player heading into a title where I think he'll be a lot more comfortable. I think World War II, he never got the roster he wanted. It was always him trying to play around the guys he had. And he came from Infinite Warfare. There was a lot of guys who were saying, or the community was even thinking, top 5, top 6, top 7 player around that caliber. I think I don't know what it is, Tunn, but I don't know why people are writing off Methods. He had the highest KD of everyone this season, played incredibly solid when he was added to Optic Gaming, despite them having the terrible placement at Champs. He was always Mr. Consistent. Granted, he got the role he wanted to play over Octane, but I feel like he was great. I think Chino brings a good presence to a roster. He's easy to work with. And then for the subs, which I feel like is more important than the ARs, I feel like Decimate could be good. A Young Gut isn't bad. A guy who's not going to talk too much, most likely. Also brings a good presence in Search and Destroy. Is nice to have. You see rosters like Optic Gaming doing the exact same thing with TJ Halley. And then one guy who, to me, played a flex, I think he would honestly be an amazing aggro sub, if not support, would be Royalty. I would love to see Royalty and Jerd on the same team.
That's I know I've bad show.
Yeah, I feel like Royalty in the past has been talked about, it's a little bit more difficult for him to work with certain rosters. But I feel like on a team like this where he can take the leadership from Looney, you have guys who are already going to have that voice. I think it would have been great to see him at least maybe get the nod or maybe even get an opportunity to play with this roster. I just think he's one of the most underrated free agents out there on the market right now. Yeah,
and I think this is one of those teams that, if they go on to do all right, and I think they will. I think they'll qualify for Pro League. I'd be surprised if they didn't. Then I think they're a team that could definitely have potential changes coming in there. This roster for me isn't one that'll necessarily stick. I know these guys would like to, but I think chemistry issues is something that we brought up in private conversations about this team. Would you like to shed light on? I'd like to shed any light on that and why you think there could be some chemistry issues, because I think we both really know why, don't we?
Yeah, this is the biggest worry for the team, right? Because I feel like this team could be very, very good, all things considered. If there were, if they were to kind of get through that checklist of things they need to mark on before this team can really kind of get to practicing and whatnot. But yeah, chemistry to me is the biggest issue. You have a guy in Looney who wants to be the IGL. He's going to be, like I said, a major presence around the team, talking a lot more than maybe a lot of these guys are used to. You have Accuracy, who is a guy who also likes to talk quite a bit, from at least interviews that I've heard, talks that I've heard as well. Actually likes to talk. You have Aqua, who pretty much likes to talk as well. I've heard, at least on Echo Fox, he likes to give his opinion from time to time, which is good. But another voice you have to throw in. Then you have Temp, right? Yeah. The biggest issue on Temp throughout his entire career has been his attitude. It's been his willingness, to talk to certain players, his, issues sometimes at events, calling out certain players, having, internal issues. Just really his overall communication seems to be a problem. And then you have Jared, who probably says 5 to 6 words per map. So you can kind of get the point here. You're going to have the 5 North Americans maybe arguing with each other while Jared's just sprinting throughout the map and doing whatever he possibly can. So I don't know. That's the biggest issue to me, is how are these guys going to communicate?
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. I'm sure they'll be able to make it work, but I think we're not the only ones with potential concerns there. I'd imagine Marky B will comment on this video and say, "Don't worry, boys, I've got this on lockdown. I'll make sure it's all sorted out." We'll see. Lastly, let's talk about where we think they're going to be ending up placing. Specifically, let's talk Vegas based on the teams that we know. What sort of area would you put them in? Because for me, I'm thinking top 12, top 8, maybe, but top 12 for definite.
Yeah, I mean, like based off of the 5-man rosters who are announced so far, like I said, we haven't seen, certain organizations get announced. There's still LG, FaZe, United who are kind of out there right now. Like, are they going to beat 100T? Are they going to beat OG? Are they going to beat Red? No, like I don't see them taking them down, especially taking into consideration roles. So that kind of transition coming in along with potential internal problems. Could they beat Envy? I'm not going to lie. I'm not the biggest fan of the Envy squad. I want to see how they do. I think that game is still a question. Like I would be coming in that game saying, like, I think Envy, but I don't really know 100%.
Yeah.
Reciprocity, because that team's still up in the air for me. I really want to see how Reciprocity performs as well. That's kind of the same lines with Envy. And then based on, like I said, what LG does, I think that's going to be an incredible roster based off the rumors. FaZe, if they add the right pieces, could be great. Same thing with E United. So I don't know. Like I said, it's hard because you don't know all the rosters solidified, but based off the list of guaranteed teams, I see them kind of being on the lower end of that.
Yeah, I would say in and around top 12 is probably where I would put these guys right now. Of course, they could go and prove me wrong.
I think they'll be a little bit higher, but there's a lot of questions.
Like,
there's so many questions
to 12th, isn't it? It's that sort of group of teams. And I think the thing is, though, something that we've discussed before, that there could be a big drop-off in terms of teams of the highest caliber, like your 100 Thieves, your Optics, your Red Reserves, and these sort of teams where, there's a couple of players in there that, there's better players out there. Let's put it that way. So I think they could be teetering on the edge of being a drop-off team from the very, very top 6 teams for me. But if they can start working together, I think they might actually be all right.
Yeah, like the Splyce roster is a puzzle, and like I said, this would be an ultimate test if Marky B can manage to sit all these guys down and be like, "Listen, guys," and of course, not using my Scottish accent, but if he was able to get them going, if he was able to work on that chemistry and get them going, that would be the ultimate test, the testament to Marky B. That would be a title in my mind for Marky B to add to his Codpedia page if he managed to get these guys to work together and get them and get their chemistry underway.
Yeah, that page doesn't have many things on it. Let's be honest with you. It's fine. No, I can roast him. I've known him for years. It's fine. Thank you very much, Marky. Lando, for coming on, and I'm really excited to see how this Splyce roster does indeed do. It's a very good lineup, but I think if the pieces fit together, they could definitely do okay, and I'm sure we'll see them do just that. Guys, thank you once again for watching the videos. All the support this week has been crazy. We've had our biggest numbers since we started our big push on content in the past month or two, so that's been really, really great. Thank you for everybody for watching. Can you please leave a like on the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see you guys on the next video.